we also need the money, and we'll give you our weapons as well. And so he agreed to all of this, because obviously he's going to get back much more, as you understand how money exchanging works. And therefore he, Abu Na'ila, set a particular time. He goes, look, we have to do this in secret because we don't want anybody to see us. So let's come at such and such a time at night. We will come and we will basically give all of this to you. You can give us the money and we'll be on our way. So according to Al-Waqidi, this took place on the 14th of Rabi' al-Awwal in the 3rd year of the Hijrah. And that's why, because he has a date, it seems he knows more than what Al-Baghawi knows. So to be fair, it seems the stronger position is that of Al-Waqidi and Ibn Ishaq and Ibn Hisham. And in any case, they are the more authoritative in the seerah than the others whom we mentioned. And so, to be academically fair, it seems closer to the truth that Ka'b was killed between Badr and Uhud. Okay, this seems to be more authentic because the bigger authorities are mentioning this. Nonetheless, you should be aware that there is another interpretation, and if that is true, then it's even easier. But even if it's not true, we have enough, to justify this for that time. So they agreed to come on the 14th of Rabi' al-Awwal, and it was a full moon. It was a full moon. The books of Sirah mentioned that there was no clouds in the sky. It was a full moon, and the Prophet ﷺ walked with them to Baqi' al-Gharqad. And at the very end he said, may Allah help you in your mission. So he blessed them basically. May Allah help you in your mission. And they then went to his castle, which was a fortress, which was on the outskirts of the city. And they called out to him from below to come on outside. And it is said that he had just married another wife. So he is now a newlywed with another lady. And he was lying with her when he heard the voice. So he stood up to go, and she held on to him. And she said, where are you going at this time? So he said, oh, this is Abu Na'ila and Muhammad al-Maslama. They have come to give me some of their goods. So she held on and she said, this is not right. Why are they coming at this time? And then she said, and we're going to come back to this phrase, you are a man at war, and I'm worried for you. We're going to come back to this phrase. You are a man at war, and I'm worried for you, what you are doing at this time. So he said, no, Abu Na'ila is my foster brother. So this shows us that one of the people that had basically joined Muhammad ibn Maslama was the foster brother, which means the same lady suckled him and Abu Na'ila. Right? Abu Na'ila is my foster brother, and Muhammad ibn Maslama, I know him from pre-Islam basically. That's why Muhammad ibn Maslama volunteered. I know him from pre-Islam, I trust him basically. So he basically dragged himself off of her, and he went down, and Muhammad ibn Maslama had already told them what he was going to do, and that is that he will, through some ruse or tactic, hold on to his head and have him in an arm grip, and then the others will do the deed. Right? Now, they knew that he was going to be armed, because he was always heavily armed. He was a strong man. He had one of the most expensive armors, because that's what they were known for, to build armors, to buy armor. So that he has wearing his personal armory as well. So they come down, and it is a beautiful night. The moon is shining, full moon, and they began talking and just gossiping and whatnot, as was the way in the days of Jahiliyyah. And then Abu Na'ila said, I smell the nicest perfume coming from you. I smell the sweetest, and where is this from? So he answered, yes, I have with me a young lady who is the most scented of all of the women of Arabia. Now the Arabs prize their scents, they love their musk, and she's with me in bed basically. This is where that smell is coming from. So he said, allow me to smell it. It smells so good, allow me to smell it. So he came closer, said, smell it, right? So then he said, oh, it's coming from your hair, please let me smell it. So he lowered his hair so he can smell it, and so he held on to him, and then the others basically did the deed. But it wasn't easy. Because of his armor that he was wearing, it wasn't easy, and it is said that one of them, Al-Harith ibn Aus, he was severely wounded by the others who were attacking. He was severely wounded, and he was bleeding badly, had to limp back to Medina. And so they returned back to Medina, and the Prophet ﷺ met them, and he put some of his saliva on Al-Harith, his wounds, and it healed instantaneously. And this was basically the end of Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf. Now, it is very obvious why this incident is problematic in light of modern times. It's very obvious why this is a very sensitive issue. And that is because the charge is given that this is a blatant assassination attempt that is justified by the Prophet ﷺ. And it is an authentic incident. It is mentioned in Sahih Bukhari, it is mentioned in Ibn Hisan. I mean, there is no way to deny this, even though some Muslims, they have this methodology, anything that's embarrassing, try to get rid of it. And this is not my philosophy. So some of them, they try to get rid of it, but it is obviously an authentic incident. Sahih al-Bukhari has a whole chapter, the chapter of the killing of Ka'b ibn Ashraf. And you have a number of narrations which are very explicit. Sahih Muslim, it is in Ibn Ishaq, Ibn Hisham. I mean, there is no book of seerah except that it mentions it, right? If you're going to deny this, then wallah, you've denied everything that we have of the seerah. Clearly, it took place. Now, a number of reasons are given why this assassination took place. The most obvious reason is this treaty with Abu Sufyan. This is the most obvious, number one on the list. That he goes all the way to Mecca, and he enacts some top secret treaty that we don't know the details about, but it is very clear. I mean, what else can it be other than a type of battle that will take place with the Banu Nadir and the Quraysh helping one another against the Muslims? This is understood, right? So a time, a place, weapons, whatnot, all of this has been agreed and discussed. So it's very clear that this is a threat to the community. Another issue that is mentioned is the verses, or there's the poetry against the women, the Muslim ladies. Another reason that is mentioned is if you want to follow Al-Baghawi's chronology, then of course we have the number one reason would be the direct attempt at assassinating the Prophet ﷺ. And frankly, I mean, here is one of those issues that, of course, the reasons are very solid, by the way. So these reasons are very solid. I mean, apart from Baghawi's one, which is an issue of chronology, the Abu Sufyan treaty is very clear that this is a man who needs to be taken care of for his political danger to Islam and to the Muslims. The problem comes not that he wasn't a criminal, but in the manner of getting rid of him, right? And that is basically an execution or an assassination. Not that he wasn't guilty, but that in our time, in our place, technically, we would put him on trial and then pronounce the verdict and then maybe execute. Okay, if that's the thing, right? So this is really the main, if you like, charge that is laid, and that is the charge of assassination. Now, frankly, here is one of those points where I think one of our problems is we are judging the political situation in the time of the Prophet ﷺ as if it is in our time. And we're judging him with our own laws and customs and trying to retroactively look at the seerah in light of modern laws. Frankly, those were different societies, those were different times, and the people who lived in those societies, they understood the dynamics of that society. And that is why we go back to that interesting phrase of his wife, when she told him that you are a man at war, even though he himself who did not participate in a battle up until that point against the Muslims, right? But she, and she's a woman, understood that what my husband is doing, you're declaring war, and you are not safe. And she understood this, because the customs of the time, the political landscape at that time, was very different than our landscape. And the laws at that time were very different. And therefore, in my humble opinion, I don't feel the need to try to justify in light of our laws. That's something that they did, and they understood it, and it was understood for that point in time. The fact that in our time it might not be done, okay, so be it. If we had a theoretical modern Islamic state, and the laws were different, it is not wajib to follow those types of laws in our times. It's not at all wajib. We can have our own system of laws. And if we have a different system than those systems, there's no problem in that at all. But the main point here, at that time, the Prophet ﷺ is basically the government of Islam. And his decree is political and religious and legal all in one. And therefore he is the judge, and he is the ruler. And therefore it is legal for him to do this in this manner. He didn't do this in Mecca when he doesn't have any authority, political authority. He didn't do it in Mecca. Hold on, we're getting there, sure. He didn't do it in Mecca when he didn't have any political authority. He didn't do it when he didn't have sulta, we call it, which is executive power. Rather, he did it when he himself now has actual political power. And therefore, frankly, I don't see the need to, quote-unquote, defend this action. This is what it is. And we don't need to try to sugarcoat it. It is what it is. He did it, and in that time and place, completely justified. Do we have to recreate that type of, if you like, tactic in our time? It is up to the Islamic government. Theoretically, if they want to decide this, there is no Islamic government. If there is one, it is up to them to decide what laws to run. And what is clear, and this is the main point here, is that the reason he has been killed is not because he rejected Islam. You can be a kafir. It's not even because he ridiculed the Prophet ﷺ personally. It is because of his political actions. And then frankly, there is that line of we do have, and it is very true, and it is a part of our Islamic culture, to have an extra respect, and in Arabic is ghiyara, which is, there is no English term. I've thought about this a lot. There is no English term for ghiyara. No, ghiyara is a very specific term. It's a positive jealousy or whatnot, or an honor that you have for those who are defenseless and you. So basically, the issue of Ka'b ibn al-Ashraf, in my humble opinion, there's no need to become apologetic. It's very clear that what the Prophet ﷺ did was completely understood, expected, and legal for his time and place. And as for our time and place, it's something that we can, the Islamic State can decide what to do. And then we also have to add here, very frankly, in light of recent developments where our own country and government has now opened this door of targeted assassinations, and of killing its own citizens, knowing it's killing them, right? And of sending drones against even 16-year-old kids. Now, we have to be very frank here. Nobody who agrees with this tactic can find any problem with the story of Ka'b. Let's just silence that immediately. You cannot have your cake and eat it as well, right? You cannot be a kettle calling the pot. It's just not going to happen. You cannot agree to this tactic, which is, by the way, much worse for many reasons which we won't get into now, but it is much worse, right? To send a drone bomb onto a 16-year-old kid, and then not one squeak is raised. And not just this, but everybody that they have killed more than their own citizens. This is now open policy, right? And it is now constitutional and legal. As of yet, it has not been challenged in any court, and no court has been able to take it. So this is now, what is happening is 10 or 100 times worse than what happened back then. And anybody who then agrees with this cannot have any problem with that. Nonetheless, I don't feel the need to try to justify or defend. I think it is what it is, that the Prophet ﷺ saw the threat that Ka'b was, and in fact, it showed us as well, and Ibn Ishaq mentions this, that